Oh, we are live. Hello, everybody. What's going on? My name is Ben Kogan of Reusable Solutions. This is a weekly show called Zero Waste Wednesdays. It's been going on since April of last year. There was a four month hiatus in the middle, and now we're back on. So I'm really excited about that. A big goal of this show is, and reusable solutions in general, is how to fix a problem. And that problem is really the problem of plastic pollution and climate change. So, here we are, and this is what we're trying to fix. And I'm trying to narrow down this gap on how do we go about fixing this thing. It's a huge issue, but it's in all of our interest to fix it because we all want a planet to live on. We all want something to give to our kids, and it's really obviously, I mean, I don't want to overstate the obvious. Obviously, it's really important that we fix this. So there's a few ways to, I've thought about a lot about it. I'm just a nobody here, but I think about it a lot, and I've talked to a lot of people. And what I've come to the conclusion is that, there's a few ways to affect change. There's the individual, there's sort of the business corporate side, and then also the government. And all these things sort of work in tandem to try to get change to happen. And every week I interview different people on the show to try to get them to talk about what they're doing. And I'm involved with a lot of different groups, and I see all these great things that are happening, but at the same time I see people that are like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what's going on, I don't know how to fix anything, and they're just paralyzed. So anyway, part of the reason I have this show is that to get the word out about all these other interesting initiatives that other people are doing and whatnot. So I'm going to invite a couple guests on the show right now. They just happen to be sitting there backstage. We have Allie Smith. She's a plastic-free advocate and friend of mine, and Kate Alberghini from Green Up Vermont. Welcome to the show.
Hiya.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. Allie, give us the 20-second spiel.
Okay. Hi, Ben. Hi, Kate. Hi, everybody. So I'm basically a photographer and a writer, and I try to concentrate on stories about things that mean a lot to me, and the environment is something that comes up regularly when I'm pitching stories and coming up with story ideas. And I'm also a mother who's been in a white-hot panic about the state of the world for a while. So I started a petition for Trader Joe's and Whole Foods specifically to reduce plastic waste in their stores.
That's great. What about you, Kate?
I am the executive director of Green Up Vermont, and I luckily landed this job a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic hit. But I'm seven, at least, generation Vermonter, and have loved the environment of Vermont and really work and strive my entire career to take care of it and work to promote healthy living spaces.
Great. Well, it's so great to have both of you on the show. I'm going to give a quick shout out to the sponsors. We have Stowe Cider. They sent me this nice care package with this thing here and some Stowe Cider, which now that we have a sponsor, a beer or cider sponsor, I don't feel really weird about drinking on the show anymore. So cheers, anyone else that's out there that has a drink. Or not.
Water.
So yeah, cheers with that. They are not just a generous sponsor that has nothing to do with the environment. The sponsors on the show all are required to have some sort of real environmental and commitment, and so they are part of this can carrier initiative that I started in Vermont with this guy named Rob Van Dennebiel. He runs a company called Eco-Friendly Beer Drinker. So these things here, these tops, it says on there, you might not be able to see, it says 100% recycled. Good, 100% recycled material. That's more than you can say about a lot of things. But then on the other thing on there, it says 100% recyclable. Well, that claim is just not true. They don't recycle well because of their shape, and they're first of all, there's holes in the top of these, so I think these hold the beer or cider or whatever. Let's pull them out. They're flat, and so when they go to a place that sorts it, they have a real hard time sorting it. And then anyways, we all know reduce, reuse, recycle. We spent the last 30 years focusing on recycling. But really what we need to be focusing on are the first two things, which are reduce and reuse. Those are the most important one. Recycling is important, but it's not the most important. It's third on the list for a reason. Anyway, it's a little bit of a long story, but they are part of this initiative. But you can, with 13 other breweries in the Vermont area, the Burlington area, where you can bring them back, and the breweries will reuse them if they can. If they can't, they'll donate it to another brewery who can. So it's awesome. I want it to expand to the rest of Vermont. It's happening all over Massachusetts. I think there's just a real, like, you can reuse them. Watch, I'll do it right now. They said it couldn't be done, but here we are, putting them back on. Good, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that initiative is happening in Vermont. Stowe Cider is a participant in that. The other sponsor for the month is Diaper Kind. They are in New York City. Do you know them, Allie? Have you heard of them?
I know the name, but I haven't been in diapers for years personally. So.
Well, they do reusable cloth diapers. So it's a service. They come and pick it up at your house, and then they pick up the dirties and replace it with the cleans. So it's happening every week. So it's like, perfect example of a circular economy where nothing is getting thrown out in that transaction. It's providing local jobs. The money isn't going to Pampers or Huggies and some sort of fat cat executive that has nothing to do with the community and is end up polluting it or contributing to polluting it by manufacturing all these disposable diapers. So it's a great thing. So they're also one of the sponsors for the month. They were on last week. And that's it for the sponsors. Do you guys mind if I play you a song?
Please.
I would love that.
Great. Okay. This is a song I wrote before I got involved with the environmental movement, and it's called Down We Go. All right. Here we go. What's it mean to be broken? What's it mean to be whole? This way that we've chosen, what's it say about our souls? All these systems are connected. One break will start a chain. This golden idol we've elected, there's no one strong enough to challenge his reign. There's plastic mountains in the oceans. What have we done to this place? It's fatal theory put in motion. How do you fix the human race? Down and down we go, feel it's going down and down we go. Down and down we go, feel it's going down and down we go. So this is the home of the brave, from sea to dying sea. We hear the madman rave, prophet philosophy. You can make the fortune of a king, make it cheap and sell it high. You build the bird with a broken wing, forces everyone to buying and buying. Big box store, you find the best deal. Tax is nothing of the true cost. It's heating up, they deny it's real. No gain will cover this loss. Down and down we go, feel it's going down and down we go. Down and down we go, feel it's going down and down we go. Oil gushes through these pipes, staying black these stars in stripes, eagles falling from the skies. How long till we realize? Down and down we go, feel this going down and down we go. Down and down we go, feel this going down and down we go. Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome. That was
Oh,
great,
it's nice to
Ben.
have an audience again. It's nice
Yeah. Hey, that's bigger than some in some clubs, right?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great, Ben.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice job.
Thanks a lot.
Very cool.
So, who wants to call it? Allie or Kate? You can call the.
How about I'm just going to let Kate talk first, unless you want to
Oh,
throw
I
the
was-
coin.
All
Do you
right. You know what? I do want to do it, but I
Oh,
feel
okay.
like if I like didn't let that happen, it would be weird. So I'm gonna just do it, and just for fun, I'm gonna just guess what it is. I'm gonna say I guess it's this is heads, this is tails. I'm gonna guess it's heads.
Yeah. It's definitely
Oh,
heads.
Kate, you go first.
All right. Well, thanks, Allie. I appreciate that.
So, Kate, where are you calling from tonight?
I am in central Vermont, Waitsfield area, not far from the capital of Vermont.
Which is Montpelier, right?
That's correct.
So I think this audience is a bit mixed. I think it's probably half Vermont, half New York City. So I mean, and that's kind of where a lot of the
All right.
people are from. So how far are you from Montpelier?
About 20 minutes.
Oh, so you're real close.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that my 20 minutes is like 11 miles. So maybe New York City, 20 minutes is what, maybe a mile? I don't know.
It's about a mile, yeah.
Yeah.
It's from
Yeah.
home to school. That's how I know 20 minutes.
Yeah. The Vermont traffic is fantastic. I have to say that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How long did you grow up there, or how long have you been there?
Yeah, I grew up in Vermont. I'm about 7 generations, at least, in Vermont of family. So, yeah, it's in my blood. It's in my bones. And I went away for 1 semester of college over to New Hampshire, so not far, but came right back. I really have no inclination to live anywhere else, or want to live anywhere else.
Wow, that's I think more than most people can say. Okay, so how'd you end up working for Green Up Vermont? Did you start it, or what's the history there?
Sure. No, my background is actually graphic design and communications, and I have spent my career really marketing the state of Vermont. I worked for the state for quite a few years as a marketing specialist. I worked for many small businesses here at Norwich University. And really, it has always been a passion to share the very best assets of Vermont. And the best asset that we have is Vermont. It's a great place to live and work and play. It's a great place to raise kids, as you're finding out now, Ben.
Yeah.
I started with Green Up a couple of years ago, actually 2019 in October, right before the pandemic hit. So very interesting time to be leading an event that is statewide and usually has over 25,000 volunteers. Green Up Vermont was started over 50 years ago. The first Green Up Day was April 18th, 1970. And it was started by Governor Dean Davis at the time. It was an idea of actually a news reporter from the Burlington Free Press. And he, on his drive to work every day, just saw lots of litter along the roadsides. So he brought, Bob Babcock was his name, the reporter's name, and he brought the idea to Dean Davis, who said, yeah, great idea, let's do it. They took a year to plan, and it launched in 1970. So what Green Up Day is, for those who don't know, is a day. It's always been the first Saturday in May, except for that first year. And we rally thousands of volunteers from all over the state. We provide bright green trash bags to everyone who wants them. All towns. Vermont has 251 towns, and pretty much they all participate. And people get out, take their kids, their families. Some do it for work. Their workplace lets them out and do this community service. We all get out and clean up roadside trash. It's not our own trash that we're out there picking up. It's the trash that gets tossed out the car window, the McDonald's bags, it's the coffee cups, it's, lots and lots of Bud Light cans, which is really unfortunate. But the initiative is what's most important. It is the picking up of the trash and getting rid of it properly, but setting that mindset, teaching that mindset to our children and everyone who lives here, and hopefully some visitors as well, that it's not okay to throw your litter into the environment. It really causes health problems. It causes problems for our wildlife. It causes problems in our streams and waterways. Vermont has a lot of swimming holes, and of course, beautiful Lake Champlain. Nobody wants to swim with trash either. So it's very important that we just keep it out of the roads and waterways.
I've been noticing, for some reason, when I think of roadside litter, I do think of Bud Lights. But recently, it's like craft beer. And I've been seeing Lost in Sip of Sunshine. I've been seeing that more, and I don't know why I always thought that. That is more shocking to me. Do you have any theories behind that, Kate?
Well, it's good beer.
Yeah.
It is good beer, and unfortunately, I don't know what makes a person think it's okay to toss that empty out the car window, but I can tell you that Lawson's is a sponsor of ours. They care very much for the environment and work with us to do a lot of promoting for Green Up Day and environmental sustainability. Stowe Cider has also been a sponsor of ours, and really a lot of businesses here in Vermont pull together to create that system of working together to prevent this litter from happening. The sponsorship dollars that we receive really go back in not only to provide the materials for Green Up Day, but a big part of it is the educational process in our schools. So if we can teach the non-littering mindset to all of our children, it will carry on. And there's proof there, right? So we're now 52 years old. We've been teaching generations to get out and go pick up litter and do their community service, do good in your neighborhoods and that sort of thing. It means a lot. So it's crucial to keep teaching our kids to do the same and to be influencers. Kids can be influencers. That's the beauty of Green Up Day, is that anybody can do it. Whether you're 3 or 80, you can get out there and you can do the simple act of picking up trash. Last year, for example, we had 418 tons of litter picked up all over Vermont roadways and waterways. We had 22,000 volunteers. And unfortunately, this is the worst part, we had 16,250 tires that were discarded.
Is that the most, I was going to ask you, as my follow-up question, what's the most littered thing? Is the tires?
No, I think the 418 tons of miscellaneous litter. So just paper and cans. And we do try to promote recycling. But the thing with roadside trash is that it's very dirty. And all of the towns can choose to sort the material that comes in, but they do have to wash any recyclables. So any plastics or any beer cans or anything else, they would have to wash it before it's either redeemed or put in the recycle bin, unfortunately. So it's very time consuming, but some towns do it. They're very committed to it. Others just don't have the capacity at this time.
So, what about for you? Like, I guess there's two questions. One is, why do you think people litter? Like, why are people littering? Like, or why don't you litter? Like, maybe that's a good place to start. Like, why do people just people think it's okay to throw it on the ground?
You know, if I had that answer, there would be no litter out there. I don't litter because it's wrong. I've always been taught that it's wrong to throw your trash on the ground. And not only that, I have a real problem with stepping over someone else's litter. So even in this time of COVID, I'll be there with a tissue or something else in my hand that I can grab someone else's litter and just throw it in the trash can, especially along city streets where there's a trash can sitting right there and someone has thrown their garbage on the ground. It just doesn't make any sense. What's the answer to that? I'm not sure. We need a real wake-up call. And I think that the more we can spread awareness of what this trash is doing to our environment, the better. I also think that the reuse and reduce of waste is the important message here. We're involved in a program. Green Up Vermont works year round. Green Up Day is kind of our culmination, but Green Up Vermont is actually working on a grant right now where we are providing water bottle fill stations to libraries and schools and
That is so crucial. It's like,
rec centers.
what's the point of having a water bottle that you bring around all the time if there's no place to fill it up? Yeah, there we
Right.
go.
Yes. And so we have these lovely Green Up Vermont water bottles. They're aluminum. But we are project managing this grant. And by doing so, we will have lots of visibility as we distribute these units across the state of Vermont to teach what these plastics are doing to our environment, to teach young kids that the average number of water bottles used by one human being is 156 per year. If we can cut that down, if I inspire one kid to use an aluminum water bottle, then maybe we have taken that 156 single-use plastics out of the oceans for their entire lifetime. And not only their lifetime, if they have children, the children's lifetime as well.
Yeah, I mean, water
Crucial
bottles
to
like
start
stay in plastic bottles stay in the environment for like 50 to 500 years, so
Yeah.
they stay there forever.
Yeah.
more or less.
Right. And it's not only the water bottle, the single plastic itself, it is the carbon footprint that it takes to make that plastic bottle
And distribute it.
and distribute it. So if you fill I think they're 12-ounce water bottle with liquid a quarter of the way full, that's how much oil it takes to produce and distribute that water bottle.
Oh,
Each water bottle.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Get some fun facts, or not so fun. Fact.
Right.
It's a fact. Interesting. Maybe.
So if we can inspire these kids to reduce their waste, that's really where we're going to win much bigger than chasing down each person that litters, even though I'd love to do that.
Yeah. What about like you getting involved in sustainability in general? What was there like a moment for you or something that you felt like, oh, you're like, oh, this is what I want to do?
I think that it's always been protect and promote Vermont for the beautiful state that it is. So where I get to live, I don't want it to be ruined by anything. And there's been, this growing conversation about climate change and sustainability and reducing, and how does that equate to what we're teaching our kids? How do we really drive that home? And when this opportunity arose for me to take the lead here, I jumped on it, and I've been thrilled. It's like the perfect job in my mind.
I mean, it seems great. It seems like you're doing a great job. I think that
Thank
Green Up
you.
Vermont. I heard about it from like a neighbor. I don't know. Oh, because I think he saw me picking something up in the stream. There was like, I don't know, a little piece of plastic film, and I picked it out, and he was like, "There's this thing that happens every year called Green Up Day," and I was like, "Oh, that sounds like something I gotta get involved with." And here I am talking to you. It hasn't even been a year. That's pretty good. That's
I love
pretty
it.
good.
Wait till next Green Up Day. You're going to be amazed.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for this one. I was actually talked to the town coordinator about doing like, did any of them have music at the end, like a festival thing at the end of any of the cleanups, or no?
Oh, well, it used to be before COVID. Many towns had potluck breakfasts, potluck lunches, special celebrations for Green Up Day, festivals. So yeah, it was a really big town thing in each town. So I don't know how many had music, but I'm
Well,
sure
I'm putting my I'm putting
create a
I'm putting this
stir in
out there to say, like, if somebody needs music, for one of these events, I would love to play it. That'd be a dream gig for me.
Yeah, let's get that going.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Kate, for telling us about Green Up Vermont and Green Up Day. I'm going to switch it over here to Allie. Before we switch it over, a quick shout out to our sponsors again. Stowe Cider is sponsoring these shows. They are part of the reusable can carrier program, where you can return these at any participating brewery or retailer in the Burlington area. We're hoping to get this happening all over the state, really all over the country. But right now it's in Burlington, Vermont, that area, and it's also in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So, and also Diaper Kind is the other sponsor. They do reusable cloth diapers in New York City. All right, Allie. How's it
Hi.
going?
Good. I was just looking at the title of a book I wanted to talk to you about. But
Oh, okay. Well, I love reading.
My brain is a sieve. Yeah. Well, I have to look it up because my brain holds nothing right now. But
Okay.
I have to say that, like, meeting you guys, meeting people that are doing your work is very healing for me. And I don't know if you've heard of this thing called anxiety, but I've had it for a really long time surrounding this world of, waste and where we're heading. And it was reading this book, Climate Anxiety, but I'm going to look it up and we're going to find it together. But that sort of extolled the virtues of reaching out to community and finding other people that were like-minded, because I feel like we're living in a really, like, a collective psychosis where, the facts don't bear out in the way that we live for the most part. And I'm like Cassandra yelling that there's a problem, and I don't understand why it feels like you're yelling into a void so often, So, and it was interesting, Ben, you asked what got me started, like what was the sort of pivotal moment that sent me on this journey.
Yeah, what was
and
it?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that two things came to mind. One was that when my son was about to turn 3, and he's 12 now, it started to feel like the world was galloping towards us to sell us stuff in a whole new way. Like the consumerism was coming in really strong towards my kid, towards me, for my kid, and it was plastic, and it was junky stuff, and it was overwhelming, because before then you just give him like a toilet paper roll and he was just 100% happy, and he still was after that. But I'm just saying it became this like worldview that was very intimidating and depressing. So my husband and I sort of wanted to mitigate that, and we decided to go to a country called Bhutan, because Bhutan is sort of notorious for, they don't have a gross domestic product that by which they judge people's happiness. They have gross national happiness. So they don't equate consumerism with happiness. And we are not wealthy people, but we're photographers. So we pitched a story and we sold a story and we went to Bhutan with our 3-year-old son. And to be immersed in a society that really doesn't think about happiness in terms of consumption. When we got back here, it looked insane. Like it looked really crazy, cuckoo crazy town, you know? And that lasted a while. It didn't stay, let's just say, because it didn't stay, because we're raised here. And, you know, but it left an impression, you know, which was a filter through which to look at this madness, really, of consumption, you know, and that did leave a stain. And I'm grateful for that. So I think that happened. And I think that sort of like it becoming quite obvious that the things I was relying on to do what I thought was the right thing, like shopping at Whole Foods, because they built a whole brand on being somehow progressive, part of the solution, more mindful, more meaningful in their choices. This is the vibe, you know, this is the hipster credentials with which they then pitch themselves to intelligent people, informed people, who then make choices that make no sense on that mission, you know, including myself, you know. And I think one thing that happened was when Amazon bought Whole Foods. I saw a few years ago, I just noticed a really like going off a cliff in terms of any of that premise. You know, it was still very cute and you could get anything you wanted, and you go in there and you're like, oh my God, I guess I need everything. But all of a sudden it was just in all their home brand products, you could like, I would be in there wringing my hands like, which one's in the cardboard? I'm only buying cardboard today. And you get it home and it's stuffed with a big plastic bag. And, you know, they have control from production through the selling of it. There's nobody else to answer to except for shareholders. So they can make better decisions and they don't. And it seemed like the decisions got worse and worse and worse. And the plastic inundating the store got more and more and more. And I started to feel like a crazy person. Like I would go in there and just be angry the whole time.
Why'd you keep going in?
100%. You're absolutely right. And I don't go in anymore. I very, very rarely. Because I was addicted to a mindset. And I thought I was doing the right thing, and it became more and more apparent. So it took me a while to wake myself up from sleepwalking through my consumption habits, you know? And I think that that's what we're kind of doing now, is sort of, sometimes you just have to like stop the bleeding. You know what I mean? Like wake yourself up from sleepwalking, really. Like I just bought a tortilla press. It's like a cast iron thing from a restaurant supply store. It's not hard. I make my own tortillas. I don't buy any tortillas in bags anymore. So
how do you feel about the quality of your tortillas?
They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're as good as I just actually ate tacos tonight, so this is like really good timing.
Get a tortilla press, cast iron from the restaurant supply store. I'm just saying. So that happened, and it started to look really way too out of congruity with how I want to live. And then Trader Joe's is another that sort of, you know, posits themselves as cool. And I would go in and be like, what is happening? Why are there 4 artichokes in a plastic clamshell? This isn't what I expect. And can't you just sell like 4 for this price or something? You know, so I started to reach out, because that's what I do. I reached out to the corporate heads and the customer feedback and the this and the that. They could give a shit. None of them could give a shit. So they wouldn't even, there is no way to reach corporation at Trader Joe's, really. They're very opaque, extremely opaque in their operations. Whole Foods runs you through this publicity PR machine. So it just was a dead end.
So I said, okay. So what'd you do? Yeah.
So I said, let's take it away from that and let's turn to the people that might care. So I started a petition and just made a sort of like list of reasonable expectations.
Can you tell us a little bit about the petition and like what was on it, like what we were asking? What were your demands?
My list of demands included all flowers won't be wrapped in plastic, this film plastic that cannot be recycled. if
Uh-huh.
easily, if at all. Both stores will make a meaningful, proactive, immediate commitment to reducing plastic waste in their stores. Both stores will eradicate the use of single-use plastic in their home brand products, over which they have the entire control.
That
Uh,
that's fair. That's a fair one, right?
I thought it was. I thought it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I started to see was that there are a lot of petitions out there asking those same two stores for the same thing, and some of them had way more signatures than I was ever going to get. 80,000, 150,000 signatures. And while I'm thrilled, the good part of that is that there's a huge amount of consciousness raising going on. And that is what is happening, right? That's what has to happen. The bad part is that it falls largely on deaf ears, I think. And that makes me really heartbroken.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how far did you get? Like, it sounds like we've talked about it before. Like, nobody called you back. Like, silence. Like, was anyone like? Did you get any response back from them after you sent them the petition?
I haven't sent it to them yet.
Okay. Are you
I've been trying
waiting?
to think about.
Yeah.
I was waiting to see. I was trying to assess. I have about 4,500 signatures.
That's good.
For me, that's great because I'm not like committed to full-time social or anything, and but I started to, because I saw these other petitions, I started to shift my thinking a little bit to what is this really about, and I think it's more about consciousness raising. It will go to those corporate heads. I have emails for all of them. When I called corporate, you can't get through to anybody. They don't accept it. So it will go out and it will be meaningful in that sense. But I've shifted my thinking about what it's really about. Meeting people like you guys, collaborating. I have to say that I wish in this process, if this makes sense, because I used to do a lot of work in the gun sense community, like around gun violence and gun sense laws.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of compartmentalizing amongst the organizations, and I understand that it's important to stay on message for your brand, for your organization, everything. But there are a lot of us that are doing work in between that are sincere and full of energy and highly motivated, and we don't officially associate with one organization or another. And I got the sense in the same way with that work and this work that it was hard to attach your mission or even ask for support from a bigger organization that wanted to stay on brand and own their petitions, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish there was a little more space for that. So that's something I learned and something I'd like to figure out. Do you know what I mean by that? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I feel like a couple things. One, part of this show is I think everybody works in silos and nobody knows what anyone else is doing. And so part of this show is to bring people together to let everyone know there's all this cool stuff that's happening. You should know about this. This is the best way I know how is a virtual meeting, a public meeting sort of where we can talk about it and you can hear oh, there's this thing in Vermont that's happening, and Kate, you can be oh, Allie is this awesome person in New York City that's working on reducing plastic pollution. So that's part of this cross silo, cross pollination thing. And yeah, I do. And the other part of it is people are kind of competing, right? The nonprofit groups are competing for members or for grant money or whatever. Kate, do you want to weigh in on that? Do you feel Vermont's pretty small, so I don't know if there's a lot of different competition there, but do you have anything to say about the way some of that works?
Yeah, I'd love to weigh in. And Allie, I applaud you. I think us working together and really communicating and sharing any message that we can about sustainability and our different missions and how they might work together as opposed to separately is really important. And I think I hope that Green Up Vermont is going that way in the future, and as it has in the past. Green Up Vermont has no competition in Vermont. We don't consider anyone competition. We are the only statewide event. However, there are other groups like Friends of Lake Champlain that do lake cleanups and lake care. There's a group of women in Montpelier that go every Tuesday and clean up cigarette butts off the streets of Montpelier. And they do an amazing job. And so, part of it is being willing to all work together and promote that fact. It's you, Ben, with your can carrier reusing, and repurposing. It's that sort of thing about getting us to all talk together and support each other to really make the environment sustainable for our future, for the future of the planet. We need to start talking. And whether the big guys, the big corporations are willing to listen or not, I know that Green Up Vermont has support from many awesome corporations here in Vermont that want to share their good work as well. So can we lift those corporations and the voice of many over big corporations? Can we do that? If we band together enough, can we get that done and tell a big enough story to our kids and ignite that fire in our kids so that they will be doing the same thing and not just out shopping, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kate, I got to bring you down to New York sometime to see some of these cleanups that are happening in New York. Like, all in the past 2 years or 2.5 years, like, all of these cleanup groups have popped up all over New York City, and people are just, it's really become like this kind of community, like this trash cleanup community. It's beautiful, really. Yeah, there's one I'll shout out now called Clean Bushwick Initiative. Maybe she's on here. I know they had a meeting tonight, and she's like, I was like, oh, come to this after. Like, this is the after party. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Allie, have you run into any cleanup groups in New York? Is that your scene at all?
Not particularly, but I mean, I'm actually working with canners right now.
Okay, yeah.
I'm really interested in the work they do because it's green work and it's really essential work.
You want to elaborate on that, what that is for everybody?
Sure. Canners are people essentially who collect cans and bottles for redemption, for the redemption rate that has already been paid out on them. When you buy a can or a bottle, you pay 5 cents on it. And you're supposed to, in theory, bring it back. The incentive is for you to bring it back, and it enters back into a cyclical economy, basically. It goes back to the distributor who pays back the 5 cents to the store plus a handling fee. So canners are somewhat controversial because they're sort of taking it on themselves to do this work. They're rescuing, hundreds of thousands of tons of, just millions of cans and bottles from landfill and from the recycling cycle rather than the redemption cycle. So they are very sort of outlying community. It's a sort of a marginalized community and not really recognized, but they're doing this essential green work that works towards a circular economy. So I find them really fantastic and fascinating, and I'm working with some organizations right now to learn more about it.
Yes, we can. Is it yes, we can?
Sure, we can.
Sure, we can. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone, I literally, that was so weird because there was a comment that just came on. I said, it was in my mind, and then it came up exactly the same time.
That's them. They're
so
great.
Weird. Yeah.
They're amazing.
What's her name? The person that runs the organization?
Well, there are a few different people. There's Christine. There's Anna, who I don't believe is there anymore. I think it was Anna. I'd never met her.
Yeah, I think that's a person I knew over there.
Yeah. There's Ryan. There's really wonderful people.
Yeah. So something that's interesting that I'm learning is it's I don't want to say it's a riff, but it's like a sort of competing interest. So okay, so this can here, it says 5 cents. Vermont's 5 cents. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 5 cents redemption is that they're like the people who are picking up the trash and doing the recycling. Like this is very valuable to them. So there's this like rift between them that like the canners are redeeming the money, but also the recyclers want the cans because the cans have the most value in they get once it they're the ones that are selling. They're selling this to scrap buyers.
Yeah.
And so there's this. Yeah, I mean, you must know all about that, right? Because
well, I'm in the middle of writing an article for the Village Voice about it, so I'm not going to divulge too much yet. But I will send you the article when it's ready. when it's out.
When does it come out?
It's going to come out in the March issue of the Village Voice. And
Okay.
I don't know if you know the Village Voice in New York, but it's like a history. The history of it is pretty intense and fantastic politically. So I'm excited about this story.
All right, cool. I can't wait to see that come out. I mean, I saw something with on Politico that the DSNY or Sims was talking about. They were saying that these cans they're their cans. And I'm like, they're not yours. Like someone else pay this deposit. But it is interesting that like you buy this, you pay this deposit, but then like what happens to that deposit if it's picked up with a recycler?
Ben, you're gonna love reading this in March.
I
You're gonna love reading this story.
I definitely will.
It's got all that information in it. It's gonna be. I gotta just sort it out now. I'm right in the middle of writing it.
All right. I'll wait. I'll wait for the thing. I can wait for March to get.
I'm not trying to be secretive. Well, I am a little bit, but like I'm really putting the pieces together. It's a fascinating puzzle. It's like a big puzzle.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take you're a photographer, professional photographer. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at your website and in prep as part of my research for this meeting. So who was your favorite? Rachel Maddow. I saw her prominently displayed on your website. What was that shoot like, and what was it for?
That was for The Guardian, for the sort of supplement in The Guardian. So it was a cover shoot for The Guardian. That was fantastic. The rigmarole around it threatened to make it fussy because you're at 30 Rock and she has handlers and and there's security and but and the time was very small. You know, I think I had 5 minutes with her in the end. I think I was supposed to have 20 and I had 5, and that was not her fault. That's just how it goes sometimes. But she was fantastic. So the experience of it was, and that's what I live for, is those moments of connection. So that was a great experience. She was great.
All right. How about Ethan? How about Ethan Hawke?
He was really great. I mean, you're hitting on all the ones that were really great. That was for The Guardian, and he was absolutely lovely. And we talked about really real stuff, and that was on the roof of his building. And yeah, there's not much more to say except that I had been really impressed with him in this movie about a musician, and I'm a musician, and you're a musician, and I don't remember what it's called now because, like I said, my brain has holes in it. But yeah, we talked about life.
When did it come out? Roughly, like past 10 years, or older.
What, the movie?
Yeah.
Less. He was, yeah.
The only one that's coming to mind actually has nothing to do with Ethan Hawke, but do you see that movie with Oscar Isaac about being a folk musician?
Probably. I'm just gonna say probably.
It's got one of those titles that's like impossible to remember. It's like a bunch of random words that it could be like "What a great day" or I don't know. It's just like,
that is catchy.
Yeah, what a great. I'm probably thinking of like a book for my son called. There's a book called The Longest Day, and there's another book called The Shortest Day, and so we have a whole like equinox thing happening here.
I'm putting this in the chat. Sarah J. Ray, A Field Guide to Climate Anxiety. This is the book that told me to go find other people, and that's how I found you guys. And so I love Sarah J. Ray.
All right, cool. I'll check that out.
Climate.
Yeah, I mean, climate anxiety is a real thing. I mean, like, what could be more like important and more devastating than the fate of the planet? And or really, it's the fate of humanity. Like, the planet will be fine. Like, the planet will recover, but it's really humans that are in trouble. Any book? Have you read any books, Kate, that really like inform your decisions that you felt like were really important to you?
Most of my books lately have been about endowment building, actually, and fundraising. And I say that because that's a very important part of our mission, is to make sure that Green Up Day lives in perpetuity. How do we make that happen? We need funds to be able to do what we do. And that's not why I mentioned the books about endowment, but that's an honest answer. What have I been reading lately? Books about endowment. It's pretty interesting to learn about what it takes to make sure that we can pass things on to our children. I mean, nothing is going to get a whole lot cheaper, right? We're experiencing lots of things actually increasing in price. So how do we make sure that our message stays around and that we can teach the next generations long after we're gone? So that's been my morning read, is a heavy endowment book.
You know, I read this book. There's this great book called Cradle to Cradle by it's by William McDonough. Do you know? Oh, he's a Vermonter actually.
Oh, really?
He was just like it was an interesting. He's an architect or his architect training, and then the other person who wrote it is a chemist, and they sort of talked about how in nature there is no such thing as waste. Like someone's waste is someone else's food. So like we were talking a little bit about litter before, and like what if there was no such thing as waste? So for instance, like a cherry tree, right? All of the cherries and they contain the seeds. They fall on the ground, and then they provide nourishment. The cherry provides nourishment to an animal that eats it, and then the seed goes into the ground. So you definitely wouldn't call like cherries that fall on the ground litter, right? Like that's not litter. That's something that provides a nourishment to something else. And so we live in a place now where like that's not happening. He has a nice phrase called waste equals food. And if waste doesn't equal food, then you got to redesign it, because like that's the only way it's going to work. That's the way it works best in nature, like biomimicry, like trying to figure out how does nature do it. Because there is waste. There's always going to be waste. You know, when we eat something, on the other end of it, there's waste. But that waste can, be that it can go to feed plants that create the food that we can eat again, or something else can eat again. So waste equals food. I'm gonna just say that again. So waste equals food. That's, I think, the big takeaway from that book. That was a great book, Cradle to Cradle.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Yeah.
I actually have a ton of book recs on my website. I can't put it in the thing that quickly, but I'll send it to everybody. But it's reusablesolutions.co, and I've read a lot of great books that have informed my decision on how to, what is the environment and how to fix things. There's another book called Drawdown. It's called 100 Solutions to Climate Change. Have you guys heard about that one?
No, I'm writing it down.
Cool. Yeah, let's talk about it later. I might start a book club where we can just talk about these like all the time. But yeah, that was an interesting one. Like I like to focus on the solutions to the problem. Like there's so many problems, but like the only thing that gets me through the day is saying, oh, there are these solutions, and then talking about like what are these solutions to making these things happen. So.
Well, Ben, I just want to say, I don't know how you feel about him as a musician or a person, but Moby, I saw the recent movie about Moby, and he's been a vegan for, I don't know, 30 years, 35 years, or whatever, and made the point of how absurd it would have been to see vegan alternatives on menus now, or then. It wasn't even in the public consciousness. It was an outlying thing that weird people did and hippies did and stuff, and that's true. Now there's vegan everywhere. So
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just the idea that things are coming into common conversation and at the fore, even though the dinosaurs don't want to let change happen for their vested interests. this is still a conversation that wouldn't have happened in this way.
Short-term interest.
Well, they're gonna die. Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant the dinosaurs were short-term. Yeah.
No, yeah, they, it's mostly all. I think it all comes down to fossil fuel companies. That's like really what it's all about. Is how do you transition to 100% clean energy? Who's going to lose money on that? The fossil fuel companies. Like that's without a doubt, and they're the most powerful people in the world.
And plastic.
And plastic, which is made from fossil fuels, right? So it's made from oil. So those like two things, like they don't want to let go, but they're going to have to because, that's the only answer here. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if I wrap it before 10, I don't have to edit this to repost this on Instagram, which is actually a huge deal for me. So I'm going to play one more song for you guys tonight and then wrap it up for the evening. Once again, we have Allie Smith and Kate Alberghini. And it's so great to have both of you guys on the show. Do you guys mind if I play one more song before we go?
I'd love
Please
that.
do.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for having Green Up Vermont on your show. It's really great. Allie, nice to meet you.
You too, Kate. I hope to be in touch.
Yeah.
All right, this one's called. What's my new volume here? Is it coming? No. Just gotta wait for it. All right, here we go. This is another original. It's called Dream Killer. Running from the law, charged with murder in the first. Love floats like a dream. I'm the pin that made it burst. People they're asking about my whereabouts. Have you seen them? Hiding out in houses to avoid the light of day. Sticking to the darkness, try to keep the law at bay. I'm running out of money, out of time, and the will to keep going on. Dream killer, always on the run. I don't believe in anything. I'm a nihilistic son. If there's a deep river, it's dry by the time I'm done. Shake your finger on the gun. I know I'm not Johnny, and I know that you're not June. I can't hand you the stars or wrangle you the moon. I killed your buzz because I wanted you to see what you're missing in me. Just because it doesn't live up to your ideals doesn't mean you shouldn't change the way we feel. Just because it's not like it is on the TV doesn't mean our love can't be. Dream killer, always on the run. Don't believe in anything. I'm a nihilistic son. If there's a deep river, it's dry by the time we're done. Shake your finger on the gun. Emotion, yes, it lingers when the brain forgets. Smells like nostalgia and it tastes like cigarettes. Well, you confuse the two to satisfy your needs. Please acquit me. At the trial, not guilty is what I plead. In my defense, Your Honor, love and I would disagree. She puts love on a pedestal. We exist in the weeds and the roots reaching for the tree. Dream killer, always on the run. Don't believe in anything. You're a nihilistic son. If there's a deep river, it's dry by the time I'm done. Shake your finger on the gun. Shake your finger on the gun. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night. Take care. See you next week.